Alright, in this tutorial we're going to look at finding slope. So notice that right here we have our slope formula, m, right? And m just represents the slope. Notice another name for slope is rate of change. So whether they ask you to find the rate of change or they ask you to find the slope, you're just trying to find the m value, right? And so in the formula, y equals mx plus b. M is always your rate of change or your slope, while the b is your y-intercept. So this is just some notes on what we call slope-intercept form. But our main goal today is really to use this formula to find the slope, to find that m value that comes before the x. Now we're going to be using this formula here. So let's go ahead and rewrite this. Now when I rewrite it, I'm going to rewrite it a little bit different. Instead of putting the y2 minus y1, I'm going to put a set of parentheses for my y2 value and a set of parentheses for my y1 value. And then in the denominator, I'm going to put a set of parentheses for my x2 value and a set of parentheses for my x1 value. Now when I do that, the next thing that I want to do before trying to put any values in here is I want to label my x and y values for these two ordered pairs, right? Because we got to have an x2 and we got to have an x1. So I usually go from left to right, and whatever one I wrote first, I'll say this is my x1 value, and this next ordered pair is going to represent my x2 value. And then this is my y1 value, and this ordered pair is going to be my y2 value. So at this point, we're actually going to start putting these points in place, these values inside of our formula. So for instance, I'm going to put my y2 value first. So my y2, I'm going to come over here to y2. It is -1. So I'm going to put -1 right here where the y2 value would be. So I'm replacing the variable with a number. Because I'm replacing a variable with a number, I want to make sure that I always put it in parentheses so we don't forget any signs. Now I'm also going to go ahead and put in my y1 value, because notice it's y2 minus y1. So this is my y2 value minus my y1 value, which is -3. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put in my x2 value, because notice in my denominator, x2 comes first. So my x2 value is +3. So I'll put a 3 in that parenthesis. And then I'll do my x1 value, because I'm subtracting x1. And my x1 value is 0. So minus that 0. So now I've taken these values, right, these ordered pairs, and I put them in the equation for slope. Now we're going to go ahead and work it out. So I've got m is equal to, now if we were doing this by hand, I would then take this, remember there is an invisible 1 in front of the parenthesis, and I would take this -1 right here and multiply it to this -3. And what would happen is you would have a sign change. In other words, a negative times a negative is a positive. So that would become +3. The first term up here, we can just drop the parentheses, it's still -1. And then in the bottom, I just have 3 minus 0. So I'm going to drop my parentheses, because -1 times 0 is still going to be 0. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the next step. And I'm just doing this in really small steps so you can see what happens. And -1 plus 3 is going to give me a +2. And if you're not good at integers, right, I just want to show you in the calculator. You could always check your answer, right? -1 plus 3, it does give me a +2. So that's going to be +2. And then 3 minus 0 is going to give me 3. And so that's my slope. I have m is equal to 2 over 3. Now, if we wanted to do this in a calculator, right, we could actually put this in a calculator. We'll get the same exact answer. So let me go ahead and show you what that would look like. So I'm going to grab my calculator right quick, and I'm going to put this same thing into the calculator, right? This is what we had up here. So I'm going to hit alpha y equals and enter, and that gives me my fraction bar. I'm going to put my parenthesis, and I'm going to put -1, close parenthesis, and then it's going to be minus parenthesis, -3, close parenthesis. And once I get done with that, I'm going to click down to get into my denominator and put in parentheses 3 close parenthesis minus parentheses 0 close parenthesis. And when I hit enter, notice it's going to give me the same thing, 2 over 3. So whether you're using a calculator to do it or you're doing it by hand, you're going to get the same answer. And if for some reason what you're doing needs it in decimal form, you could actually just take the 2 divided by 3 and get your decimal form, which is 0.6 repeating. So that's how you find slope using the slope formula.